I'm Caleb, 29, and I own the house my parents currently live in, though they have absolutely no idea. Before I tell you about the eviction notice I just handed them, you need to understand why I did it. Before I tell you about the look on my father's face when I realized his selfie, some was the only thing standing between him and the street, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. I read every single one. It started 5 years ago. I was 24. I wasn't a kid.
She smiled back, typed into her computer, and then her face stopped. It didn't just change. It froze. She clicked the mouse a few times, frowned, and looked at me over her glasses. "Caleb, honey," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "There must be a mistake on your slip." "I don't think so," I said. "I checked the balance online last week. There should be 45,000 in there. I just need 12. Mrs. Higgins turned the monitor screen toward me. "The balance is 0, Caleb. The account was closed yesterday." I felt the blood drain out of my face. Felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My knees actually buckled, and I had to grab the counter to stay upright. "Closed? Who closed it?" I asked, though my stomach was already churning with the answer. "Your father," she said gently. "Robert. He came in yesterday afternoon. He withdrew the full balance in a cashier's check and closed the account. I didn't say thank you. I didn't say goodbye. I turned around and walked out of that bank like a zombie. The sun outside was blinding. I got into my rusted-out 2008 Chevy Silverado, gripped the steering wheel, and screamed. I screamed until my throat tasted like copper. That money was my life. That was every missed party, every double shift, every burger I didn't eat so I could save $5. I drove to my parents' house. I still lived there, in the basement, paying them rent, which I thought was helping them out. I pulled into the driveway. My brother Braden's car was there. A brand new, leased BMW. Braden was the golden boy. He was 32, worked a vague, consulting job that didn't seem to pay bills, and was getting married in 3 months to a girl named Emily who came from old money. I stormed into the house. The living room looked like a bridal shop exploded. There were flower arrangements everywhere. My mom, Martha, was holding up different shades of napkins. My dad was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting a tuxedo jacket. Braden was sitting on the couch, drinking a beer, laughing at something on his phone. They looked up when I slammed the front door. "Caleb," Mom chirped, "don't slam the door. Look, tell your brother this shade of cream is better than the ivory." I didn't look at the napkins. I walked straight up to my dad. He looked good in the tux. He looked rich. He looked like a man who hadn't stolen $45,000 from his son. "Where is it?" I asked. My voice was shaking. Dad turned around, smoothing his lapels. "Where is what?" "Use your words, son." "The money," I said louder this time. "My money. The savings account. Mrs. Higgins said you cleaned it out yesterday." The room went quiet. Braden took a sip of his beer and looked away. Mom suddenly got very interested in a flower arrangement. Dad just sighed, like I was boring him with a trivial complaint. "Oh, that," Dad said. "Yes, we needed to move some assets around." "Assets?" I stepped closer. "That wasn't an asset. That was my salary. That was 4 years of my life. Put it back." Dad laughed. It was a short, dismissive bark of a laugh. "Relax, Caleb. It's for the wedding. Costs have ballooned. The venue needed a bigger deposit, and Emily's parents are covering the reception. So we have to cover the rehearsal dinner and the honeymoon. It's family business." "The wedding." I felt sick. "You stole my college fund for a party?" "It's not just a party," Braden chimed in from the couch. "It's a networking event, Caleb. You wouldn't understand. Important people are going to be there." "I don't care who is going to be there," I yelled. "I have tuition due in 2 weeks. If I don't pay it, I can't graduate. I can't get my degree." Mom walked over and put a hand on my arm. Her touch felt cold. "Caleb, keep your voice down. The neighbors. Look, Braden needs a good start. He's marrying into a prominent family. We have to look the part. You're young. You're smart. You can work another year and save it up again. You're so good at saving. I stared at her. Work another year? Mom, that took me 4 years. I worked 3 jobs. I have no social life. I have no girlfriend. I have nothing but that money. And that's the problem, Dad said, turning back to the mirror. You're selfish. You hoard money while your brother is trying to build a future. We're a family. We pool resources. When you get married one day, we'll help you too. Help me? I laughed. A bitter, jagged sound. You didn't help me save that money. You didn't wash a single car. You didn't wait a single table. You stole it. Watch your tone, Dad snapped. His face turned red. I am your father. That account was in my name too. Legally, that money was mine to manage. I decided it was better spent ensuring your brother's happiness than letting it sit there while you play engineer. Play engineer? I clenched my fists. My fingernails dug into my palms. I am 1 semester away from being an engineer. You just stole my career. You're being dramatic, Braden said, standing up. God, you're always such a tightwad. This money, Caleb. You can make more. Don't ruin this for me. Emily is really stressed out. I looked at them, the 3 of them, a united front. My dad, the narcissist. My mom, the enabler. My brother, the parasite. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a piggy bank they could smash open whenever the golden boy needed a shiny new toy. I'm not being dramatic, I said, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. I want a check. Right now. Write me a check for $45,000. Dad stepped fast. He got right in my face. He smelled like expensive cologne and stale coffee. Or what? What are you going to do, Caleb? You live under my roof. You eat my food. I pay you rent, I shouted. I pay for my own food. Write the check, or I go to the police. That was the trigger. Mom gasped, but Dad didn't hesitate. He slapped me, hard. It wasn't a disciplined slap. It was a slap meant to humiliate. My head snapped to the side. My cheek burned like fire. You ungrateful little brat, Dad hissed. You threaten me in my own house? Over money? Get out. I touched my cheek. I looked at him. You're kicking me out? I said get out. Dad roared. If you value money more than your family, then go be rich somewhere else. But you aren't getting a dime from me. That money is gone. Spent. Non-refundable deposits. I looked at Mom. She looked down at the napkins. She wasn't going to save me. She never saved me. Fine, I said. I'll leave. But this isn't over. You think you can just take everything I worked for? You're wrong. Go ahead and try, Braden sneered. Who's going to believe a college dropout over Dad? I walked to my room. I didn't pack everything. Just my clothes, my laptop, and the box of pay stubs I kept under my bed. Every single pay stub from every single shift for the last 4 years. I grabbed them all. As I walked out the front door with my duffel bag, Dad called out one last thing. Don't come crawling back when you realize the real world is harder than washing cars. I slammed the door so hard the glass pane rattled. I got in my truck, threw my bag on the passenger seat, and drove away. I didn't know where I was going. I had $60 in my wallet and half a tank of gas. But as the house disappeared in my rearview mirror, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't just going to get my money back. I was going to make them regret the day they decided I was the disposable son. The first night was the hardest. You don't realize how much space a human body takes up until you try to sleep across the front seat of a single cab truck. I parked in the back lot of a 24-hour Walmart under a flickering street lamp. It was October and the temperature dropped fast. I didn't have a blanket, just my work jacket. Every time I started to drift off, the cold would wake me up, shivering, my joints stiff and aching. I checked my phone around 3 a.m. It had blown up, not with apologies but with hate. My aunts, uncles, cousins, people I hadn't seen in years were messaging me. I can't believe you ruined Braden's tux fitting, my Aunt Linda wrote. Your mother is heartbroken. Money comes and goes, but family is forever. Apologize. Selfish, a cousin texted. Just pure selfish. They had already spun the narrative. To the world, I was the greedy little brother throwing a tantrum because I didn't want to chip in for the wedding. They didn't mention the theft. They never did. I didn't reply to anyone. I blocked them, one by one. Block, block, block. Felt good. A tiny slice of control in a world that had spiraled into chaos. The next morning, I brushed my teeth in the Walmart bathroom and washed my face with cold water. I looked like hell. My eyes were red-rimmed, and I had a bruise forming on my cheek where Dad had slapped me. But I had work. I couldn't lose my jobs. If I lost my income, I was dead. I worked my shift at the diner on autopilot. I poured coffee, flipped eggs, and smiled when customers yelled at me for cold toast. Inside, I was calculating. I needed a lawyer. But lawyers cost money and I had zero. Then I remembered Wyatt. Wyatt was a guy I went to high school with. We weren't best friends, but we played football together. He was intense, argumentative, and brilliant. I saw on Facebook that he had just passed the bar exam and opened a small practice in a strip mall near the highway. I drove there straight after my shift. His office was tiny. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and boxes of files everywhere. Wyatt looked up when I walked in. He was wearing a cheap suit, but his eyes were sharp. "Caleb?" he asked, surprised. "Man, you look rough. What happened?" I sat down. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him everything. The joint account, the 3 jobs, the wedding, the slap, the zero balance. Wyatt listened without interrupting. He took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I got to the part about my dad saying, legally, that money was mine to manage, Wyatt stopped writing. He looked up, and a slow, shark-like grin spread across his face. "He actually said that?" Wyatt asked. "Word for word." "He's an idiot," Wyatt said. "Joint account doesn't mean steal everything account. It's a constructive trust. Since the money came entirely from your earnings, and you have the pay stubs to prove it, that money is yours. He committed conversion, breach of fiduciary duty, unjust enrichment. We can hit him with everything." "I can't pay you, Wyatt," I said quietly. "I have $60. Wyatt waved his hand. "Don't worry about it. I'm new. I need cases. I need wins. And honestly, I hate bullies. Your dad sounds like a massive bully. We'll do it on contingency. I take a cut when we win. And we will win." We spent the next week building the case. I slept in my truck, showered at the gym where I had a membership, and spent every free hour organizing my financial history. I had records of every deposit. I had the withdrawal slip copy Mrs. Higgins had printed for me before I left the bank. It was a paper trail so thick you could choke on it. Then came the hard part, serving them. Wyatt wanted to mail it, but I said no. They humiliated me. They slapped me. They made me homeless. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the shame I felt. Braden's engagement party was that Saturday. It was being held at a fancy country club. I knew everyone would be there. The important people Braden wanted to impress. I pulled up to the club in my rusted truck. The valet looked at me like I was trash. I ignored him and walked straight to the patio where the party was happening. It was a beautiful scene. String lights, jazz music, people in cocktail attire holding champagne flutes. I saw my parents holding court near the bar. Dad was laughing, a cigar in one hand. Mom was showing off her ring. Braden and Emily were accepting gifts. I walked right into the middle of the crowd. I was wearing my work boots and jeans. The chatter died down as people noticed me. A ripple of silence spread outward until the whole patio was quiet. "Caleb," Mom said, her smile faltering. "What are you doing here? You look dirty." Dad stepped forward, his face darkening. "I told you, unless you're here to apologize and contribute, you aren't welcome." I reached into my jacket pocket. I didn't pull out a weapon. I pulled out a thick envelope. A manila envelope with the red stamp of the county court on it. "I'm not here to apologize," I said, my voice carrying clearly over the silent crowd. "I'm here to give you this." I handed the envelope to Dad. He didn't take it, so I dropped it on the table next to his scotch. "What is this?" Braden asked, walking over. Get out of here, Caleb. You're embarrassing us. It's a subpoena, I said. And a lawsuit. I'm suing Mom and Dad for the theft of $45,000. And I'm requesting a forensic audit of all family accounts to see where else my money went. The crowd gasped. I heard whispers. Theft? Suing his parents? Dad's face turned purple. You wouldn't dare. This is a private family matter. Not anymore, I said. You made it public when you spent my tuition on this. I gestured around the lavish party. I hope you all enjoy the champagne. I paid for it. I turned to Braden. And by the way, nice tux. It cost 200 hours of scrubbing tires. Dad lunged for me. You ungrateful. But he stopped. He saw the phones. People were recording. The important people were watching. He froze, trapped by his own vanity. I'll see you in court, I said. I turned and walked away. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would explode, but my head was high. As I walked back to my truck, I checked my phone. I had a text from Wyatt. Filing confirmed. Let the games begin. I slept in my truck again that night, but for the first time in weeks, I wasn't cold. The fire of what I had just done kept me warm. The weeks leading up to the trial were a blur of harassment. My phone didn't just blow up, it melted down. Mom left voicemails crying, saying I was destroying the family, saying the stress was giving Dad heart palpitations. Braden sent threatening texts saying he would beat the hell out of me if he saw me. I saved everything. Wyatt told me to. Every threat is leverage, he said. Every guilt trip is proof of their manipulation. When the day of the trial finally arrived, I put on the only suit I owned. A cheap, ill-fitting thing I bought from a thrift store. I met Wyatt at the courthouse steps. He looked calm. Ready? He asked. I just want it over, I said. Inside the courtroom, my parents were sitting with their lawyer, a family friend who specialized in estate planning, not litigation. He looked bored. My parents looked furious. They wouldn't make eye contact with me. The trial was a bench trial, meaning there was no jury, just a judge. Judge Holloway was a stern woman with glasses on a chain and zero patience for nonsense. Dad took the stand first. He was confident, arrogant. He smiled at the judge like they were at a cocktail party. Mr. Teller, Wyatt asked him, pacing in front of the stand, did you withdraw $45,000 from the joint account on October 14th? I did, Dad said. As was my right. My name was on the account. And did you deposit any of that money? Wyatt asked. Well, no, Dad admitted. But I provided housing, food, guidance. That money was reimbursement for years of expenses raising Caleb. Reimbursement? Wyatt picked up a piece of paper. Did you have a rental agreement with Caleb? Verbal, Dad said. We're family. I see. And did this verbal agreement include retroactively seizing his life savings? Objection, their lawyer said half-heartedly. Sustained. Rephrase, the judge said, though she was looking at Dad with suspicion. Wyatt changed tactics. He pulled out the box. My box. He started stacking pay stubs on the evidence table. Stack after stack. It looked like a skyscraper of paper. Your Honor, Wyatt said. These are pay stubs dating back 4 years. Every single dollar in that account can be traced to Caleb's employment. We have matched the deposit dates to his paydays. Not a single cent came from Robert or Martha Teller. Wyatt turned back to Dad. Mr. Teller, you spent this money on a wedding, correct? I spent it on family obligations, Dad said stiffly. Did you ask Caleb for permission? He's my son. I don't need permission to manage family assets. He was 24 years old. Wyatt's voice boomed. He isn't a child. He is an adult. And you stole his future to pay for a party. Then it was my turn. I sat on the stand and told the truth. I told them about the 3 jobs. I told them about the goal. I told them about the slap. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just stated the facts. I just wanted to go to school, I said. I just wanted to finish. Judge Holloway took off her glasses. She looked at my parents. Then she looked at me. Stand up, please, she said. We all stood up. "Mr. Teller," she said to my dad, "in my 20 years on the bench, I have seen some despicable things. But robbing your own son, who worked minimum wage jobs to better himself, just to fund a lavish event for another child, that is morally bankrupt." Dad's mouth fell open. He started to stammer, "Your Honor, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." She cut him off. "Judgment for the plaintiff. You are ordered to repay the full amount of $45,000, plus legal fees, plus interest." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Wyatt squeezed my shoulder. But the victory wasn't clean. My parents didn't have the cash anymore. They had spent it on deposits, caterers, and the florist. To pay the judgment, they had to take out a second mortgage on the house. A high-interest, predatory loan because their credit wasn't as good as they pretended it was. I waited in the parking lot while they signed the paperwork with the court clerk. When they came out, Mom walked straight up to me. Her eyes were dry and hard as stones. "Are you happy?" she spat. "You humiliated us. You forced us into debt." "I didn't force you to do anything," I said. "You stole from me. You are dead to us," Mom said. "It was a curse. Don't call. Don't come by for Christmas. Don't ever speak to us again. You are not my son. You are just a greedy stranger." "And you?" Dad pointed a shaking finger at me. "You'll fail. Without us, without this family, you are nothing. You'll be back begging in a year." I looked at them, really looked at them. I saw the fear behind the anger. They were drowning, and they were mad I refused to be their life raft. "Goodbye, Robert. Goodbye, Martha," I said. I didn't call them Mom and Dad. I got in my truck. Wyatt was waiting by his car, grinning. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm $45,000 richer," I said. "And I just lost my parents." "No," Wyatt said, looking at them driving away. "You just lost about 300 pounds of dead weight." I took the money. I paid Wyatt his cut, which he tried to refuse, but I insisted. I paid my tuition. I finished my degree. But I didn't stop there. The anger didn't go away. Turned into fuel. High-octane, clean-burning fuel. I was going to prove them wrong. I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to build an empire, brick by brick, so high that they would have to crane their necks just to see the shadow I cast. Fast forward 5 years. I didn't become an engineer in an office. I couldn't sit still. The court case had changed me. I needed to build things with my hands. I needed to see tangible results. I took my degree and my remaining savings and went to work for a guy named Mr. Lincoln. He was an old-school general contractor who smelled like sawdust and tobacco. He took a chance on me when he saw I could read blueprints and wasn't afraid to haul lumber. "You got a chip on your shoulder, kid," Lincoln told me one day while we were framing a house. "That's good. Keeps you moving. Just don't let it weigh you down." I worked like a demon. I learned everything Lincoln could teach me. How to bid on jobs, how to manage subcontractors, how to spot a load-bearing wall just by looking at the roofline. But my real education happened at night. I started reading about real estate, foreclosures, distressed properties. I realized the real money wasn't in building houses for other people. It was in owning them. I bought my first fixer-upper when I was 26. It was a disaster. Roof leaking, foundation cracked, smelled like cat pee. I lived in it while I fixed it. I worked on it every night until 2 a.m., sleeping on a mattress on the floor covered in drywall dust. I sold it 6 months later for a $40,000 profit. I rolled that money into 2 more houses, then 4. By 29, I owned a small construction firm, Phoenix Holdings. I had a crew of 12 guys working for me. I wasn't a billionaire, but I was comfortable. I didn't buy a Ferrari. I bought a brand new Ford F-250, black, with leather seats and a heavy-duty towing package. It was a working man's trophy. I also met Sarah. Sarah was a nurse. We met when I sliced my hand open on a jagged piece of flashing and had to go to the ER. She stitched me up and told me I had stubborn eyes. Sarah was the opposite of my family. She was calm. She was fair. She didn't care about money or status. She cared about me. When I told her about my parents, she didn't tell me to forgive them. She just held my hand and said, "They didn't deserve you. You know," Sarah told me one night over dinner, "you work so hard to prove you don't need them, but you've already proved it. You won." "It doesn't feel like winning yet," I admitted. "It feels like waiting." I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And drop it did. I kept tabs on them. I admit it. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to know. I knew Braden's marriage was a disaster. The wedding I had paid for was spectacular, sure. But the marriage? A train wreck. Braden didn't want a wife. He wanted a second mother to clean up after him. Emily, his wife, was high maintenance, but she wasn't stupid. She expected a partner with ambition. Braden's only ambition was to be a professional heir. I heard rumors through the small-town grapevine. Braden got fired from his consulting job. Braden was drinking too much. Braden gambled away their joint savings. Then came the divorce filings. Emily didn't play nice. Her family had better lawyers than mine. She took him to the cleaners. She got the house, the car, the dog. Braden had to move back in with Mom and Dad. The golden child was back in his childhood bedroom, at 34 years old, broke and bitter. And Mom and Dad? They were struggling. That second mortgage they took out to pay me back? It was an adjustable rate mortgage. When the interest rates hiked up, their payments doubled. My dad had retired early, thinking Braden would become rich and take care of them. That plan had evaporated. I was sitting in my office one Tuesday, looking at blueprints for a new duplex, when my phone rang. It was Mr. Lincoln, who had retired but still sent me leads. "Caleb," he said, his voice gravelly, "I just got the foreclosure list from the county bank. There's a property on there you might want to see." "Yeah," I asked, clicking my pen. "What's the address?" He read it out. 1402 Oak Street. My pen stopped clicking. The air left the room. 1402 Oak Street. My childhood home. The house where I was slapped. The house where I was told I was nothing. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Foreclosure auction is next Friday," Lincoln said. "Bank owns it. They stopped paying the mortgage 6 months ago." I hung up the phone. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall. Fate wasn't just knocking on my door. It was kicking it down. My parents were losing the house. They were going to be evicted. A normal person might feel pity. A normal person might call them and offer to help. But I remembered the slap. I remembered legally it was mine. I remembered the empty bank account. I picked up my phone and called my broker. "Get everything ready," I said. "I'm going to that auction. And I'm going to buy 1402 Oak Street. You want to flip it?" my broker asked. "No," I said, a cold smile touching my lips. "I want to keep it." The days leading up to the auction felt heavy, charged with a strange electricity. I drove past the house one night. It looked tired. The lawn was overgrown. Dad used to be obsessive about the lawn. The paint was peeling on the trim. A "for sale" sign from the bank was staked in the yard, leaning crookedly. Inside, I knew what was happening. Denial. My parents were the type of people who believed consequences were for other people. They probably thought a miracle would save them, or that the bank was bluffing, or that Braden would suddenly win the lottery. I did some digging. It was worse than I thought. Not only was the mortgage unpaid, but they hadn't paid property taxes in 2 years. They were drowning. The day of the auction, I didn't go myself. I sent a proxy. I couldn't risk them seeing me there and making a scene, or worse, the auctioneer recognizing the family connection and pausing the sale. I set up a limited liability company, LLC, named Phoenix Holdings, to make the purchase. It was faceless, anonymous. I sat in my office, phone on speaker, listening to my proxy. "Bidding is starting at 200,000, the proxy whispered. "Go to 250, I said. 220, 230. Sold to the gentleman in the back for 245,000. Just like that, it was done. I owned my parents' house. I owned the roof over their heads. The transfer of title took about 2 weeks. During that time, the bank sent the standard letters to the occupants. The property has been sold. You must vacate. I waited. I wanted to see what they would do. Sure enough, a week after the sale was finalized, my office phone rang. My receptionist, oblivious to the drama, buzzed me. Caleb, there are 3 people here to see you. They don't have an appointment, but they say they're family. A Mr. and Mrs. Teller. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady. This was it. The moment. Send them in, I said. The door opened. Robert, Martha, and Braden walked in. They looked small. That's the only word for it. Dad's suit was old and hung loosely on his frame. He looked gray. Mom looked frail, her hair uncolored, showing streaks of white. Braden looked hungover. He was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, his face puffy. They stopped when they saw me. I was sitting behind a large mahogany desk, wearing a tailored shirt, backed by a view of the city skyline. The contrast was brutal. Caleb, Mom breathed. She looked around the office, taking in the framed awards, the blueprints, the success. My God, you've done well. Have a seat, I said, not standing up. They sat in the leather chairs opposite me. They looked uncomfortable, like children called to the principal's office. To what do I owe the pleasure? I asked. I thought I was dead to you. Dad cleared his throat. He tried to summon some of his old authority, but it cracked. Now, son, let's not dwell on the past. Families fight. It happens. We didn't fight, I corrected. You robbed me. I sued you. You disowned me. We were stressed. Mom interjected, her eyes filling with those weaponized tears. The wedding, the pressure. We made mistakes, but we're still your parents. What do you want? I asked. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Braden spoke up, his voice whiny. We need help, Caleb. Bad. The bank? They sold the house. I know, I said. They sold it out from under us. Dad said, slamming his hand on the armrest. Predatory lenders. We've been living there for 30 years. And now some faceless company bought it. They want to kick us out. Phoenix Holdings, Mom said. Reading from a crumpled piece of paper she pulled from her purse. Do you know them? You're in real estate. Can you talk to them? Maybe you could loan us the money to buy it back? Or just pay the rent for a while until Braden gets back on his feet. I looked at Braden. Still getting back on your feet, huh? It's been 5 years. Shut up, Braden muttered. You think you're better than me? I am better than you, I said calmly. I have a job. I pay my bills. And I didn't steal my brother's college fund. Please, Caleb, Mom begged, leaning forward. We have nowhere to go. If we lose the house, we're homeless. Your father is sick. He can't handle a move. You have so much now. 45,000 is nothing to you now, right? Can't you just help us this one time? For family? The audacity was breathtaking. They were asking me to use the money I made because they stole from me to save them from the consequences of stealing from me. I opened my desk drawer. I can't talk to Phoenix Holdings for you, I said. Dad's face fell. Why not? You said you had connections. I can't talk to them, I said, pulling out a folder. Because I am Phoenix Holdings. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. Dad blinked. What? I bought the house, I said. I am the owner of 1402 Oak Street. Mom gasped, covering her mouth. You bought our house? My house, I corrected. It's my house now. A look of relief washed over Dad's face. A sick, twisted relief. He slumped back in the chair and actually smiled. Oh, thank God, he said. Thank God. You bought it to save us. I knew it. I knew you were a good boy deep down. You did it to keep the house in the family. He looked at Mom. See, Martha? I told you he wouldn't let us starve. He's a smart businessman, but he loves his mother. He turned back to me, beaming. So, what's the plan? Do we just pay you a little rent? Or do we just sign it back over to us when we get the money? I stared at him. He truly didn't get it. He thought this was a redemption arc. He thought I was the prodigal son returning to rescue the people who abused him. I slid the folder across the desk toward them. Open it, I said. Dad reached out, his hands shaking with excitement. He opened the folder. He stared at the document on top. His smile faded. His skin went the color of ash. What is this? He whispered. It's an eviction notice, I said. Eviction? Mom shrieked. But you just said you own it. I do, I said, standing up now, towering over the desk. And I have decided that I don't want tenants who have a history of theft and financial irresponsibility. You are a liability. You can't do this, Braden yelled, jumping up. We're your family. You stopped being my family the day you laughed while Dad stole my future, I said, my voice cold as ice. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. If you aren't out by the 1st of the month, I will have the sheriff remove you forcibly. Caleb, please. Mom was sobbing now, real tears this time. Where will we go? We have no money. I don't know, I said. Maybe you can find a joint account to raid. Or maybe Braden can find a wealthy fiancé to pay for it. Dad stood up slowly. He looked at me with pure hatred. You are evil. You are a monster. I'm a landlord, I said. And business is business. I pointed to the door. Get out of my office. You have 30 days. Start packing. The 30 days passed in a strange kind of quiet. I didn't hear from them directly. I communicated only through my property manager. I didn't want to give them an opening to manipulate me. I knew if I heard Mom's voice, a small, stupid part of me might waver. So I stayed distant. My property manager, a tough-as-nails woman named Karen, gave me updates. They're selling things, she told me on day 10. Furniture, tools, electronics. Looks like a yard sale every day. Good, I said. They'll need the cash for a deposit on an apartment. They're trashing the place a bit, she warned me on day 20. Scuffing walls, leaving trash. Let them, I said. I'm going to gut it anyway. That was the plan. I wasn't going to rent the house out as it was. It held too many ghosts. I was going to tear it down to the studs. New walls, new layout, new energy. I was going to erase the memory of my childhood and build something profitable on top of it. On the final day, the 30th, I drove over. I brought Wyatt with me just in case. And a sheriff's deputy, which is standard procedure for a hostile eviction. The truck was gone. Braden's car was gone. The driveway was empty. I walked up the front path. The grass was knee-high now. The front door was unlocked. I pushed it open. The house was empty. Not just empty of furniture, but empty of life. They had taken everything. Even the light bulbs. There were outlines on the walls where pictures used to hang. Scuff marks on the hardwood where they had dragged the heavy furniture. I walked into the kitchen. It smelled stale. I remembered sitting at that table, eating cereal, dreaming of being an engineer. I remembered the slap happening right there, by the refrigerator alcove. I walked to the living room. There was a pile of trash in the center of the floor. Fast food wrappers, old newspapers, broken hangers. A final screw you from my family. And on top of the pile was a photo. I picked it up. It was a picture of me, around age 10, standing between Mom and Dad at a park. We were all smiling. It looked like a happy family. I flipped it over. On the back, in Dad's handwriting, it said, "You were loved once." I stared at it. It was meant to hurt. It was meant to be a dagger in my heart, to make me regret everything. "You okay?" Wyatt asked from the doorway. I looked at the photo one last time. Then I crumpled it up and dropped it back onto the trash pile. "Yeah," I said. "I'm fine." I wasn't sad. I felt light. The weight was gone. The fear of their disapproval, the desperate need for their validation. It had all evaporated the moment I handed them that eviction notice. I had taken back my power. They couldn't hurt me anymore because they had nothing I wanted. "What do you want to do with the place?" Wyatt asked, kicking a piece of trash. "Bulldoze it," I said. "Well, renovate it. But gut it first. I want everything gone. The carpets, the drywall, the cabinets. All of it." "Phoenix Holdings indeed," Wyatt grinned. Burn it down and rise from the ashes. Exactly. I walked out onto the porch. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the overgrown lawn. I took a deep breath. The air smelled like autumn. It smelled like freedom. I didn't know where my parents went. Karen said they rented a small 2-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town, miles away. Braden was working at a car wash. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were starting over at the bottom just like I had. Maybe they would learn something. Maybe they wouldn't. It wasn't my problem anymore. I walked down the steps to my truck. I had a meeting with an architect tomorrow to discuss the new floor plans. I had a date with Sarah on Friday. I had a life to live. I got in the truck, started the engine, and didn't look back as I drove away. 1402 Oak Street was just an address now. An asset in a portfolio. A line item on a spreadsheet. It wasn't home. Home was something I was building for myself. You might think that driving away from that empty house was the end of it. You might think that handing my parents an eviction notice and watching them pack their lives into cardboard boxes was the final chapter. I thought so too. I thought I had cut the cancer out. I thought the wound would just heal, leave a scar, and I'd move on. But toxic people don't just fade away. They don't just accept defeat and reflect on their poor choices. When you back a narcissist into a corner, they don't surrender. They attack. And if they can't attack your wallet anymore, they attack your reputation. It started about 3 weeks after the eviction. Life was actually feeling good. Normal. I was spending my days at the site of the old house, my house, overseeing the demolition crew. There is something incredibly therapeutic about watching a sledgehammer smash through the drywall of a room where you used to cry yourself to sleep. We were gutting the place. Down to the studs. I wanted to remove every atom of the past. I wanted to erase the smell of my dad's cigars and the ghost of my mother's perfume. I was standing in what used to be the living room, wearing my hard hat and holding a blueprint, when my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Now, Sarah never calls me during the day. She's an ER nurse. She's busy saving lives. If she calls at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, something is wrong. "Hey, babe," I answered, stepping out onto the porch to hear over the sound of a circular saw. "Everything okay?" "Caleb." Her voice was tight. "Don't freak out." That is the worst sentence in the English language. Don't freak out is universal code for you are absolutely about to freak out. "What is it?" I asked. "Is it the hospital? Are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine. But have you been on Facebook today?" "You know I haven't. I'm working." "Okay." She took a breath. "I just sent you a link. You need to look at it. But promise me you won't do anything rash. Promise me you'll call Wyatt before you respond." "Sarah, you're scaring me. Just look at it. I love you." She hung up. I pulled the phone away from my ear. My notification bar was already filling up. Missed calls. Texts from random numbers. Facebook notifications. I clicked the link Sarah sent. It opened to a GoFundMe page. The title hit me like a physical punch to the gut. "Help elderly parents evicted by heartless millionaire son." Below the title was a photo. A professionally staged photo. It showed my mom and dad sitting on a stained mattress in what looked like a damp basement apartment. My mom was wiping a tear. My dad was looking down, defeated, his arm in a sling. I didn't even know he had injured his arm, or if it was just a prop. I started reading the description. It was a masterpiece of fiction. "Hi everyone. We are Robert and Martha. We have lived in this community for 40 years. We raised 2 sons. We gave them everything. We sacrificed our retirement to put them through school. But recently, tragedy struck. Robert fell ill and couldn't work. We fell behind on bills. We reached out to our youngest son, Caleb, who owns a massive construction empire, for help. We didn't ask for money. We just asked for time. Instead of helping, Caleb bought our family home out from under us. He evicted us with only 3 days' notice. He laughed at us while we begged. Now we are living in a moldy apartment with no heat, eating canned food, while he demolishes the home where he grew up. We are heartbroken, not just for the loss of our home, but for the loss of the son we loved so much. Please, if you can find it in your heart to help us survive this winter. I scrolled down. Donations. $12,450 raised a $50,000 goal. Then I looked at the comments. There were hundreds of them. This is disgusting. Who treats their parents like this? I know this guy, Caleb Teller. He owns Phoenix Holdings. Everyone share this. Boycott his business. What a monster. Karma will get him. I hope he rots. Elders deserve respect. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so hot it felt like it was burning my skin. Massive construction empire? I owned a small business with 12 employees. 3 days' notice? I gave them 30. Moldy apartment? They had rented a decent place. I knew because Karen checked the lease. And the biggest lie, sacrifice to put them through school. I laughed, a loud, crazy laugh that made one of my crew guys look over at me with concern. They stole my tuition. They literally stole it. My phone rang again. It was the office. Caleb, my receptionist, Lisa, sounded like she was crying. People are calling the office. They're screaming at me. Someone just called and said they hope a building falls on you. We have 6 cancellations for estimates this morning. What is going on? Lock the doors, Lisa, I said. Forward the phones to voicemail. Go home. I'll pay you for the day. But just go home. It's not safe. I hung up and called Wyatt. I see it, Wyatt said before I even said hello. I'm looking at it right now. This viral Caleb. It's been shared 4,000 times in the local groups. It's all lies. I shouted into the phone. Every word. Defamation. Libel. Sue them, Wyatt. I want to sue them into the ground. Calm down. Wyatt's voice was steady, the anchor in my storm. Listen to me. We can sue. We can send a cease and desist to GoFundMe. We can file a defamation suit. But that takes time. Courts are slow. The court of public opinion moves at the speed of light. By the time we get a judgment, your business will be dead. They are painting you as a villain, and right now you look like one because you're silent. So what do? I kicked a piece of lumber so hard it splintered. Just let them destroy me? No, Wyatt said. You fight fire with fire, but not with a lawsuit. You need to tell your side. Do you still have the box? The box? The pay stubs? The court transcript from 5 years ago? The eviction notice copy, the bank records showing the theft, the text messages where Braden called you a loser. I have all of it, I said. I kept everything. Good, Wyatt said. Don't write a post. Don't write a statement. People don't read statements. Make a video. Sit down, look at the camera, and show the receipts. Show them exactly who the heartless millionaire really is. I drove home. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw a car slowed down in front of my house. Someone rolled down the window and spat on my mailbox before driving off. This was my town. These were my neighbors. And my parents had turned them into a mob. I walked inside. Sarah was there. She had left her shift early. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me. She held me while I stood there, vibrating with adrenaline and anger. They won't win, she whispered against my chest. Truth wins. Eventually. I'm going to make it win today, I said. I went into my home office. I set up my phone on a tripod. I didn't use special lighting. I didn't put on makeup or fix my hair. I looked tired. I looked angry. I looked real. I brought out the box. The evidence box that I had carried with me for 5 years. I hit record. Hi, I said to the camera. My name is Caleb Teller. You might know me as the Heartless Son from the GoFundMe page that is currently circulating. You might have commented on it. You might have donated to it. And honestly, if that story was true, I would hate me too. I took a breath. But I'm not here to ask for money. I'm not here to ask for pity. I'm here to show you something that my parents forgot to mention. I held up the first document. This, I said, bringing it close to the lens, is a certified court judgment from 5 years ago, case number 4599 CV. Caleb Teller versus Robert and Martha Teller. You can look it up. It's public record. I read the judge's ruling out loud. Defendants are found liable for the conversion of $45,000 from the plaintiff's account. I put it down and picked up the pay stubs. My parents claim they sacrificed to put me through school. These are my pay stubs. From age 16 to 24. Diner, car wash, pizza delivery. 3 jobs. I saved every penny for my tuition. And on October 14th, 5 years ago, my father walked into the bank and withdrew every single cent of it to pay for my brother's wedding. He left me with 0. I picked up the eviction notice. They claim I gave them 3 days' notice. Here is the notice, dated 35 days before eviction. And here, I held up a screenshot of a text message, blown up on a piece of paper. Here is the text message my mother sent me when I offered to let them stay if they apologized. I read the text. Go to hell, you greedy pig. We don't need your charity. We will ruin you. I looked straight into the camera. I didn't evict my parents because they were poor. I evicted them because they are con artists. They stole my future once. I refused to let them steal my present. To everyone who donated, you didn't help an elderly couple in need. You paid for my brother's next bar tab. If you want a refund, I suggest you ask GoFundMe. I stopped recording. The video was 10 minutes long. It was raw. It was brutal. Are you sure? Sarah asked from the doorway. Post it, I said. I uploaded it to my personal Facebook page and the business page. Then I turned off my phone. The next 24 hours were agonizing. Couldn't sleep. Every time a car drove by, I flinched. I felt like I was back in that truck, 19 years old, homeless and scared. But then the shift happened. Wyatt called me the next morning. He was laughing. Have you looked online? I can't, I said. I'm terrified. Look, he said. I turned on my computer. The video had 50,000 views. Then 100,000. The shares were skyrocketing. But the comments were different. Oh my God. I donated to them. I feel sick. I'm requesting a refund right now. I looked up the court case. He's telling the truth. The judge literally called the dad morally bankrupt. That text message from the mom. Chills. Who talks to their kid like that? Caleb, I'm so sorry we judged you. You are a warrior. Then the local news picked it up. A reporter did a segment, Viral GoFundMe Exposed. The truth behind the heartless son story. They interviewed Wyatt. They showed the court documents on the 6 p.m. news. GoFundMe froze the campaign for fraud investigation. The money, the $12,000 they had raised, was refunded to the donors. But the real blow came 2 days later. I was back at the construction site. The framing was going up. I saw a car pull up. It was Braden's car. I braced myself. I grabbed a hammer, not to use it, just to have something heavy in my hand. Braden got out. He looked wrecked. He hadn't shaved in days. He walked up to the caution tape barrier. What do you want, Braden? I yelled. You want to take a picture for the next scam? He didn't yell back. He just slumped against the hood of his car. It's over, he said. His voice was hollow. Mom and Dad, they can't go to the grocery store. People yell at them. The church kicked Dad off the deacon board. The landlord at the apartment saw the news and said he's not renewing the lease next month. Actions have consequences, I said. I learned that when I was sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. Looks like you guys are finally learning it too. They're broke, Caleb, Braden said. Like actually broke. That GoFundMe was the last hope. Dad spent the last of his pension on the lawyer to fight the eviction. They have nothing. They have you, I said. You're the golden child. Step up. Get a job. Support them. Braden laughed. A dry, broken sound. I can't get a job. Who hires the guy who scammed his own brother? My name is mud in this town. Then move, I said. Leave. Start over. That's what I did. It works. He looked at me. For a second, just a second, I saw the brother I used to look up to when we were kids. Before the money, before the jealousy. I saw a scared little boy trapped in a 30-something-year-old failure's body. "We're leaving," he said. "Arizona. Mom has a sister there. We're packing up tonight." He hesitated. I wanted to ask, "Did you really save all those pay stubs? For 5 years?" "Yeah," I said. "I did." "Damn." He shook his head. "We never stood a chance against you, did we?" "No," I said. "You didn't. Because you were fighting for a lie, and I was fighting for my life." He got back in his car and drove away. That was the last time I saw my brother. The smear campaign didn't destroy me. It fireproofed me. My business actually doubled in the next month. People wanted to hire the guy who stood up to the scammers. I got contracts I didn't even bid on. The storm had passed. But the house was still waiting. With the family gone and the scandal buried, I threw myself into the house. It became an obsession. I wasn't just renovating a property. I was performing an exorcism with lumber and drywall. We gutted it completely. We took it down to the skeleton. I stood in the center of the house one afternoon, looking up through the empty rafters at the sky. No roof, no walls, just the frame. It looked fragile, but the bones were good. That was the irony. The foundation was solid. It was the people who lived inside it that were rotten. One Tuesday, I was helping the crew pull up the subfloor in the master bedroom, my parents' old room. We were prying up plywood sheets that had been nailed down for 30 years. "Hey boss," one of my guys, Mike, called out. "You might want to see this." He was pointing to a space between the floor joists, a hidden compartment. My stomach tightened. Was it more money? Hidden cash they claimed they didn't have? I knelt down and reached into the dusty dark space. I pulled out a metal lockbox. It wasn't locked. I opened it. It wasn't money. It was letters. Hundreds of them. I picked up the top one. It was addressed to me, Mr. Caleb Teller, from University of Michigan, dated 7 years ago. "Dear Caleb, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted." I picked up another. Scholarship offer. Another. Georgia Tech. I sat back on my heels, the dust swirling around me in the sunlight. I had applied to these schools. I remembered checking the mailbox every day senior year, hoping, praying. I never got a single letter. My parents told me I had been rejected. They told me, "It's okay, Caleb. You're not really college material anyway. Community college is better for your budget." They had hidden them. They had intercepted my mail, hidden my acceptances, hidden my scholarships. Why? To keep me here. To keep me in that basement. To keep me paying rent and washing cars and contributing to the family fund. They didn't just steal my money. They stole my potential. They stole the life I could have had 5 years earlier. Sarah found me there an hour later. I was still sitting on the floor joists, surrounded by the letters. I wasn't crying. I was past crying. I was just staring at the paper. "Caleb?" She stepped carefully over the beams. I handed her a letter. "I got in," I whispered. "I got into Michigan. Full ride." She read it. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God. They hid this. They wanted a servant," I said. "Not a son." Sarah sat down next to me. She took my dirty, calloused hand in hers. "And look at you," she said fiercely. "You didn't go to Michigan. You didn't get the easy path. But look what you built. You built a company. You built a reputation. You built us. Caleb, they stole the map, but you still found the treasure." She was right. As always, she was right. I stood up. I gathered the letters. "What are you going to do with them?" she asked. "Burn them." "No," I said. "I'm going to frame the rejection letters." "No, wait. I'm going to frame the acceptance letter. The one from Michigan." "Why?" "To remind myself," I said, "that I was always good enough, even when they told me I wasn't." We finished the house 3 months later. It was unrecognizable. I changed everything. The front door moved to the center. The kitchen was open concept. We added a second story. It was modern, bright, and airy. It smelled like fresh paint and possibility. I listed it for sale. My broker told me I could get a premium for it. The market was hot. On the day of the open house, I sat in my truck across the street, just watching. I saw couples walking and holding hands. I saw families. Then I saw a young couple pull up in a beat-up Honda. The guy looked tired, the kind of tired I used to feel. Work boots, paint on his jeans. The girl was pregnant, holding her lower back. They looked at the house with wide, hungry eyes, but they hesitated at the sign. They thought it was out of their league. I got out of my truck and walked over. "Hi," I said. The guy jumped a bit. "Oh hey, we were just looking. Probably can't afford it, honestly. It's beautiful though." "I'm the owner," I said. "Caleb." "I'm David," the guy said. "This is Jenny." "You in construction?" I asked, pointing to his boots. "Yeah." David smiled sheepishly. "Drywaller. Working double shifts trying to save up for the baby." I looked at him. I saw myself. The hustle. The exhaustion. The hope. "You like the house?" I asked. "I love it," Jenny said, looking at the porch. "It feels safe. It feels like a happy place." It wasn't a happy place, but it could be. "Tell you what," I said. "Put in an offer. Whatever you can actually afford. Don't worry about the asking price." "Are you serious?" David asked. "Dead serious. I want this house to go to someone who knows what it means to work for it." I sold it to them for $40,000 under asking. My broker thought I was insane. He told me I was leaving money on the table. "It's not money," I told him. "It's a down payment on karma." A week after closing, I took Sarah to the empty lot I had bought on the other side of town. It was a hill overlooking the valley. No ghosts here. No history. Just grass and sky. "What are we doing here?" Sarah asked, wrapping her coat tighter against the wind. "I sold the house," I said. "I know. That's great, babe. And I kept the profit." I reached into my pocket. "Well, most of it. I spent some of it on this." I pulled out a ring. It wasn't flashy. It was elegant. A solitaire diamond that caught the sunlight. Sarah stopped breathing. "I don't want to live in the past anymore," I said. "I don't want to fix old broken things. I want to build something new. From the ground up. With you." I dropped to one knee in the tall grass. "Sarah, you were the only family I had when I had nothing. Will you be my family for everything that comes next?" She started crying. The happy kind of crying. "Yes, yes, you idiot. Yes." We hugged, spinning around on that empty hill. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel the weight of the chip on my shoulder. I didn't feel the need to prove anything to Robert or Martha or Braden. They were gone. They were footnotes in my biography, chapter 1 and 2. But this was the rest of the book. 5 years have passed since then. Phoenix Holdings is the biggest residential contractor in the county now. We build affordable housing, and we run a scholarship program for trade schools. I named it the Second Chance Scholarship. I heard from a cousin recently that my dad passed away in Arizona last year. A heart attack. I didn't go to the funeral. I sent flowers, anonymous ones. Not for him, but for the basic dignity of death. Mom is in a state-run nursing home. Braden apparently works at a warehouse and never remarried. They never reached out again. I think they finally realized that the well was dry. Or maybe, just maybe, they finally felt shame. But I don't think about them much. I'm too busy. Last night, I was sitting in the living room of the house Sarah and I built. Our son, Leo, who is 3 years old, walked in holding a plastic piggy bank. "Daddy," he said seriously, "I saving." "Yeah." I put down my paper. "What are you saving for, bud?" "A rocket ship," he said. "To go to the moon." I smiled. I picked him up and set him on my lap. "That's a good goal, Leo. A very good goal." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a $5 bill. I folded it and slid it into the slot of his pig. "Here's a start," I said. "And listen to me, Leo. This is your money. Nobody takes it. Not mommy, not daddy. It's yours. You earned it by being a good boy." He shook the pig, listening to the rattle. "Mine? Yours?" I kissed his forehead. Forever. Because the cycle stops here. The trauma stops with me. My son will never know what it feels like to be a bank account. He will only know what it feels like to be a son. And that is the biggest fortune I ever built. Educational takeaway: if you are listening to this and you feel that familiar ache in your chest, that feeling of being used, undervalued, or manipulated by the people who are supposed to love you the most, please listen to me. Blood is biology. Family is behavior. We are taught from a young age that we owe our parents everything, that we must set ourselves on fire to keep them warm. But that is a lie. You do not owe anyone your mental health. You do not owe anyone your financial future. And you certainly do not owe anyone your dignity. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. It is self-preservation. Walking away from a toxic family member doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a healthy one. My parents stole my money, but the greater crime was that they tried to steal my belief in myself. They wanted me to believe I was nothing without them. I proved that I was everything in spite of them. If you are in a situation where you are the bank, the fixer, or the scapegoat, stop. Close the account. Change the lock. Walk away. It will be the hardest thing you ever do, and then one day you will realize it was the only thing you could do. I want to hear from you guys. Have you ever had to cut off a family member to save yourself? Or are you struggling with that decision right now? Comment freedom below if you believe that peace is more important than pleasing people. Or just comment good if you think I did the right thing. I'm Caleb. Thanks for listening to my story. Keep building.